The Canon R100 is one of the cheapest mirrorless cameras that you can get in 2025, and for me personally this is really exciting because I've been using an iPhone 7 to shoot photos for a long time, and this is a real big step up for me, and this must be also the case for you guys. So the first question that I'm gonna answer is the camera better than the phone? If you trust physics, the camera is better than the phone because it has a larger sensor. So as that's out, let's talk about the design of the camera. This thing just looks like any other Canon, but the difference is that it is smaller and lighter. If you have bigger hands, you may find it hard to grip the camera because it is really small, and due to the small size, this camera doesn't really have a lot of knobs and buttons, but I think the amount of buttons on the camera is perfect for a beginner photographer to get used to the camera without getting confused. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the screen on the camera is fixed, which kind of makes it harder to take photos at an angle, and it is not a touch screen. You have to use the buttons and dials to move around the menus, but as a solution you could use the Canon application, which connects to your camera and you could shoot through that, and you could also transfer photos and videos directly from your camera to the phone, and it is really good. Now, on top of the screen you have a electronic viewfinder, which is really useful for me, especially because I shoot a lot of aviation photography and I'm outdoors most of the time. I do find myself using the viewfinder a lot, and that's a feature that the new R50V, the new Canon camera, doesn't have. I would say if it had a viewfinder, it's the best camera that you could buy, but yeah, it doesn't have a viewfinder, but does have a movable screen. If you're interested, you could go check that camera out. The link is down in the description. Now, coming back to the R100, let's talk about the weight of the camera. It doesn't really weigh much. I would say Canon has done an excellent job in making this camera. Overall, the design and comfort part is really good. Now, if you take out the 18 to 45mm kit lens that you get with the camera, you see the 24 megapixel APS-C sized CMOS sensor. Thanks to that, we have the freedom to crop into our photos without worrying about losing resolution or quality. And with the sensor, you could shoot up to 4K at 24 frames per second, but I would never recommend to shoot at 4K with this camera because it has a really big crop and you only get 24 frames per second in 4K. At the end of the day, I would recommend shooting at 1080p because anyway, social media is going to compress your footage. So yeah, just shoot at 1080p. It's way better on the camera. That's what I'm doing for my YouTube videos. In photos, this thing could shoot JPEGs and RAW. If you're taking RAW images, if you hold down the shutter button, it will take 6 photos and it will take a break. But if you're shooting JPEG and if you hold down the shutter button, the limit is way more than that. And one more thing, this camera only works with RF lenses. So basically, if you don't understand that, Canon has 2 types of lenses, EF and RF lenses. EF lenses are for the DSLR cameras and the RF lenses are for the mirrorless cameras. So this camera only supports the RF lens. So if you want to use an EF lens, which is cheaper than the RF lens, then you gotta buy an adapter for that. So if you're buying this camera, keep that in mind. That's it about the Canon R100. It is a really good camera if you are a beginner photographer coming from a mobile phone, and if you really get it for a cheaper price than the $599 price that it is selling right now. So yeah, I would recommend always getting this camera second hand. If you're buying a new camera, go for the Canon R50 or the R50V, which are way better cameras. But if you get this camera for a cheaper price, go for it. It is a really good camera for a beginner. That is it. See you next time. Until then, bye.